Welcome, everybody, to our Games Rushmore 2017, where we decide on the very best games of the year.
Only the best.
Only the best.
The definitive.
17.
Objective.
Yep. Definitive.
Yes.
Definitive.
My name is Aaron, and with me,
It's Josh.
Brandon.
Mike.
we're all here. And we all played a lot of games this year.
To deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot leave until a verdict.
We cannot leave the Thunderdome until 4 games have been crowned.
Oh, man.
Or 3 of us are dead.
Yes. Like the previous
Whichever
year.
comes first.
Yeah.
We'll
But before we can just jump right into it, Mike, you have something you want to share?
Okay. So, as of this recording, a couple nights before, I went to a holiday party with some friends. And there was a white elephant gift exchange, and it was just mysterious packages. And I gave House 2, which I don't even think is a white elephant. That's a gift.
Quality.
Yeah.
That's manna from heaven right there. That's quality stuff.
That's a good job.
But I went over and grabbed this package unmarked randomly, and I'm going to unfold it here, so I apologize, my voice kind of fading out. But
Oh my goodness.
I'm unfolding a
Pillowcase.
large pillowcase
It's long, almost suited for a body.
of Tracer from Overwatch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mike, this is known as a body pillow.
Well, there's no pillow in there, so
Mhm.
there's that going for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a body pillow case, I guess.
But this is wildly disturbing.
That looks like they bought that for you because you're a fan of Overwatch. It's not sexual. It's just a body
well,
Well,
Josh, help me flip this over. So the front side is just Tracer just looking cute.
and it's a good picture of Tracer.
It is a good picture.
Doesn't she need this to live?
Yeah. The backside is her looking over her shoulder as she's taking her jacket off.
It's
and
not explicit.
It's
which
not
I
explicit.
appreciate.
It's very PG.
It's provocative.
It's provocative. She's winking and blushing.
And as Josh alluded to, she took off her time
Chronometer.
regulator thing.
Yeah, that keeps her locked into a temporal space.
It's end of the world scenario.
I
If
guess
I'm
so.
gonna die, might as well go out with style.
So
She actually reminds me of, I don't know, somebody who would dress like this a lot in cartoons.
In
April from
cartoons?
Teenage Mutant Ninja
Is
Turtles.
it April O'Neil? I kind of was like thinking that, but I couldn't quite place it.
The yellow straps and then the hair.
But on this is the butt that got banned from Blizzard. So
The butt that got banned.
well,
They changed her victory pose. One
Yeah.
of her victory poses where she
Well-
was kind of like,
looking over her shoulder and
Yeah.
kind of sticking her butt out.
Oh.
And so somebody complained and they changed it way back in the beta days. So it was never actually in the official release. But
Really?
yeah, so
That's hardcore lore right
the
there.
person who bought this thing typed in Amazon waifu body pillow, and this was the only PG one that came up.
Yeah.
And he showed me a May one,
mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Oh, poor May." It's like, no, not May. You're so innocent. No, and it was her in lingerie, and I didn't turn the backside over, the picture, and
The
then
front
the
was
other,
bad enough.
the front was bad enough, and then all the other ones were just like anime girls with censor marks all over them.
Mhm.
It's just so it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but poor Tracer.
Yeah, well. Yeah, poor Tracer. Now she's in the clutches of Mike Clement.
Well, it's-
There's a Hatoful boyfriend body pillow that I love. And the front of it is a pigeon. And the back is the boy that you could also turn on
Oh.
because Hatoful boyfriend, you can play it with just birds, or you can play it with people that are the interpretation of that bird, like essentially.
Oh, okay.
Well,
that would take all the fun out of it.
Exactly.
I-
Nobody plays that version.
I may hang it on my wall, the front side,
Mhm.
as a poster.
Yeah, because it looks actually
Yeah, let's flip
perfectly
this.
fine
Yeah,
representation of Tracer right there.
Yeah,
Neat.
it's I doubt this is Blizzard approved.
No, the art looks a little bit
Yeah,
off.
it's
Not off, but not
It's definitely fan art.
anime-ish.
Not official.
Yeah, it's a little bit more anime than normal, but
The Blizzard stamp.
either that, I'm just gonna fold it up and just stick it in a drawer somewhere,
You
For
need
later.
it by a pillow.
and just pull it out
Stuff it.
on especially lonely nights.
At this point, you don't even need a pillow. You could just get some stuffing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm not putting a pillow in this. That's for dang sure.
That's a shame.
That crosses the line.
From garbage to comfort. that's the line is crossing. I sleep with a pillow. Everyone sleeps with a pillow here.
It's not
garbage.
a body pillow though that you're spooning.
Wow, but
It could
Have
you
just be
tried it?
Wall
coming in-
art.
yeah.
This could just be wall art.
It could just be wall art.
Or it could be bed art.
So I'm gonna leave Tracer out for this deliberation.
Oh,
So
okay.
the front side.
Uh-huh.
This is to remind us of 2016,
Yeah.
Yes.
the legacy that 2016 has brought us.
Yep.
And how much better 2017 was, video game-wise.
Yeah.
But Overwatch, another good year for it. So
Yeah, it's the shadow of Overwatch over this whole year.
Mhm.
There you go.
I stayed up until almost 1 a.m. playing it
Yep.
with friends.
Yep.
For
Well,
like 4 hours.
That's enough of Overwatch and 2016. We're going to get into 2017 here.
Mm-hmm.
And Josh,
Oh.
why don't you start us off with some games you'd like to recognize
All right.
from this year?
So we each have personal top 10 lists. I'm sorry, top 5 lists. I do not have a top 10 list.
I think I could bring mine to 10, but I don't think I will.
I have 9 games written down, so I don't even have enough written down for a top 10 list.
I didn't even play 10 games.
There you go. Yeah, you have a hard enough time getting the top 5. And I think we're going to go top down. I usually go down up.
Mm-hmm.
You mean you're going to go from number 1?
Number 1 to number 5.
Okay.
But I think it's going to be more interesting to go top down for
Why?
this year.
You're just like the Last Jedi. You subvert expectations.
Yeah. Why do you think it's more interesting? Because I think it'll be more interesting to see what people slide into their 4th and 5th slots rather than their 1st and 2nds. Unless,
Okay.
It's your
Just
top. You do what you want.
For you, it's not a close second or first.
No, not really.
The first is so out there that we all know what it is.
Yes. And you can probably guess
Hot Buffalo Boyfriend.
that it is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild
Mhm.
is my number 1 game this
Mhm.
year. Because, I think we're going to talk about it a lot, but I don't like open world games,
Mm-hmm.
and I love this game.
Yeah.
So it just does it in the best possible way for me. I know some people complain about it not having a story, like a developed story.
There's a few complaints people lobby at it, but
They're wrong.
I disagree with all of them except for probably the narrative being a little weak.
And I like the way this narrative is put together because it doesn't push me to advance a plot, which I think is one of my main problems that I have with open world games is that the plot just kind of stands still until you get around to it.
Yeah.
As opposed to this, which the plot has already happened and you're just kind of developing a recall.
The plot has stood still in this game for 100 years.
Right, and you're essentially recalling the information that came before. You can finish your mission, which is you woke up and you don't remember anything, but somebody told you to go do this thing. And you're like, cool, I'll go take care of it. Or you can explore, locate things, and discover the story of what went before. And it's a kind of narrative storytelling that I like. I like a disjointed, not necessarily a linear story that gets
Linear.
told. Is that it's a word?
Sounds
right?
like near. Well, it just sounds like instead of the emphasis on lin is linear. So it just made me think of the game.
Josh is
Nier.
French, okay?
Yeah, I got a French pronunciation.
Linear.
So that's my number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And my number 2, I thought a lot about because there's a lot of things that can go into number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Divinity Original Sin 2
Mm-hmm.
actually
Okay.
made it into my number 2 slot.
Okay.
That game is such a good throwback to old CRPG games, updated to like modern sensibilities. And whereas I spoke about stories in open world games not interesting me,
Mm-hmm.
except for the way that the Zelda did. This is kind of the opposite because you advance the story by doing specific events. But every side quest that you do seems to tie back into your main story plot, no matter how you do it. And that is just another way of exploring to discover story.
Yeah.
So it does the same thing, but in a different way. And so instead of discovering something that already happened out of linear order, you are advancing the story in a completely different order.
Mm-hmm.
And the actions that you take definitely have consequences all the way through that game, which is one of those things that I think people always talk about for an RPG. And it's like, oh, all the different endings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel like having meaningful choices that go throughout the game and actually make a difference one way or another is another way to kind of accomplish that feat.
Makes an interesting difference because there can make a difference where it's just doesn't matter. Like, who cares?
Right. If something's a different color or a different person shows up to do a thing. Whereas instead, if you make a different choice here, somebody's dead. And
you have to live with that consequence.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that whole series. So
yeah, I never really played the first one. Played it a little bit, but I didn't really get into it just because something else was occupying my time. But in this case, this one, caveat, I don't finish video games. 2 of the games on my list I've finished, or 3.
Sounds like you're not much of a real gamer.
Why are you on this podcast?
He's more of a dabbler.
It's my MO to not finish video games. That's just he
has a problem with closure.
Really dumb.
It's in my wheelhouse of not finishing things.
You get distracted is what happens.
I got a lot of things going on.
You get distracted in a game. You're like, oh, here's this cool blitzball. Let me play this this is my new game. Who cares about saving the world?
Yeah, who cares about saving the world? That's passé. But becoming the best blitzball player,
yeah,
that's a story. Who gets to tell that story? So that's my second place, which means my third place is kind of relegated to Super Mario Odyssey this year.
Switch.
And see, that's one I finished the main story, but I don't consider that game finished.
Yeah, I mean, it is for the most part, but there's challenges that are out there.
Yeah, and I mean, narratively, it's not like super strong because they aren't, generally speaking.
It felt like a full game, though.
Yeah.
When you get the end credits, like I was satisfied with that game.
That's fair. But there's so much left and so much left unseen.
Yeah.
Like, people will talk about things in this game, and it's like, I have no idea what you're talking about because there's so much more to it at that point.
Yeah, all the other stuff is definitely worth seeing. Yeah, that I haven't even seen all of.
So, I mean, I can't really even consider that game completed, but it is bringing Mario back to the 3D roots that it had in 64, and just the freedom to move the body however you want. I kind of talk about this with Metal Gear Solid 5, where it gave you the ability to move this person, this character, however you wanted, and you accomplish things because you had that complete freedom.
Mentioning that reminds me of this video I saw recently where it was called, "This is what 300 plus hours of Metal Gear Solid 5 looks like." It's pretty dope to watch. It's just effortless, seamless movement, and it looks like an action movie or something. It's perfectly framed and just doing all this crazy badass stuff, and that's a testament to what you can do with the actual controls of the game.
Right, because it's just, here, I'm going to give you complete control over this character. Go for it. And it's crazy. And it's the same thing with Super Mario. And the people who made Mario knew that. I was watching a video of like hidden places in Mario, places that you wouldn't think you should be able to get to. But the way that you can combine jumps and stop actions and start new actions means that you can traverse practically anywhere in that game. And the developers knew that. They put pile of coins in places that are ridiculous.
Hard to reach.
Like impossible. I would have looked at them and been like, all right, where's the warp pipe that takes me there? No. You have to do the craziest timings and cancellations of moves in order to get there because you have that freedom. So, number 4 on this list is Gorogoa.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a recent
puzzle game came out December 14th of this year.
Wow.
And the way that it does puzzles makes it so that you are essentially you have 4 panels, kind of like a sliding puzzle that you can work with. But you adjust sections of those worlds. You zoom in, zoom out, rotate sometimes, and then you find things that line up between panels to make an action happen.
So it's like you're focusing on up to 4 different pictures, different, like almost, I don't know, focuses, and they are all of different things, but if they manage to line up, something happens.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you can say you focused on 5 different pictures at most. Because sometimes you take a picture and it leaves behind a picture, but then you're taking like the outside structure of that picture and you have it in your hand. So now you have 4 images down below and when one in your hand that you could possibly interact with another picture with. And in a way, it tells a story. It's a very
there's no like
esoteric story.
words or anything, no dialogue or anything, right?
Yeah, there's no words, there's no dialogue, there's no real explanation of what's going on. But at the very beginning of the game, you see a boy in an apartment, and he feels like something weird is going on. He looks out his window, and there's just this big, colorful creature going through the city, going through the skyscrapers. And you just kind of see it as it goes. And then from there on out, he looks at a book that has like a picture of that creature, and then it talks about like these fruits. So then from there on out, your job is to collect the fruits, the 5 fruits. And you
Triforce.
see the 5 force. And you see these pictures of different people, maybe the same person. It doesn't really explain. But people in different situations, being bombed for some reason, or being unable to walk, or things like that. It's very interesting, and it's very satisfying to do as a puzzle. You don't just like randomly click things and solve them. Like you really have to go look for specific things.
What are you playing it on?
I played it on PC. It's also on Switch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this game, I never got around to it, but it looks really interesting.
Yeah,
I think it might be up my alley.
it's good. I have some honorable mentions.
You didn't say number 5 though yet, huh?
Not yet.
Okay.
Oh boy,
Resident Evil 7 is an honorable mention.
Didn't even play that game.
I didn't even play that game. But it
Well,
is
that's one of my honorable mentions then, because I didn't play it.
It is great to watch.
Yeah,
And it just looks like I've seen every Resident Evil game played from start to finish. I've never played a Resident Evil game because I don't know. I just
You
don't
don't know how to play games.
no mini games.
No mini games. What am I supposed to do in that game? The story, ridiculous. But it's fun to watch, and like it's great after 6 that they came back and made 7 in the manner that they did.
Yeah,
It's a fresh start. Fresh
Um,
beginning.
Night in the Woods is another honorable mention, where you play a cat lady who's come back to her town, and we played a bit of it as a group, and you get to a part where I guess I shouldn't say what we found, but it's things seem kind of normal, and you're talking to people and they're kind of like weird, and you're doing some weird stuff, and you're like, okay, maybe this is just a fun game where you walk around and you talk to people, and you know everybody has some attitudes and stuff, and then you go outside the building and you find something on the floor, and you're like, what? Why is this here? What's going on? It's just not one I finished. I didn't even get past that part where it was like, holy crap, because we were playing it as a group, but we kind of stopped playing it. So I'm interested in finishing that one just to see where it goes. But
I heard it's pretty satisfying.
Yeah. But if you just look at it and you're like, oh, that's a cute game, there's more to it.
Yeah,
there's more to it than that. Nier. I'm gonna honorable mention because I am nowhere in that game.
No,
I'm positive I will love this game.
how far have you gotten? How many hours?
13.
Do you have it?
I'm borrowing it from Aaron.
Oh,
He
okay.
just started. Yeah.
On the PS4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hook a brother up. Call him,
I still have it. It's in my PS4. But I'm not in a place where I can say whether or not I like it.
Mike, how many hours do you have in it?
14.
Really?
Yeah.
I had a little more than that.
I thought I did too, but when I restarted, after a long period, my save was only 7 hours, so I've played it for 7 hours in the last 2 days or so.
Oh.
I will say Mike is almost done with his first playthrough of the game, and he has no idea what he's in store for.
And I take twice as long to play a video game, so that maybe it's not 13. Maybe I'm 6 in then or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it feels good.
Yeah.
I like that its difficulty settings. I don't feel bad for choosing easy.
It's also very customizable.
Yeah. Even when you choose easy, you then have the option of putting on these auto attack, auto firing things.
We should have a spoiler cast when we're all finished with it.
Good, yeah.
And my last honorable mention is Friday the 13th, the game. What a fun game that it would be if it worked.
If it worked.
It's fun.
The premise is amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
I still enjoy watching it, and I haven't played it in a while, but especially if we get people together, it's a good time.
It's just good.
Were you the one that hit my traps where it was right near the exit? I laid some booby traps right near the exit, and you're the last one alive, and I was chasing you, and
could be.
you triggered the bear traps.
Right trying to get out from the police.
Yeah,
I
but
think
you
so.
still someone killed me. I don't know who it was.
I think somebody came out of the woods and saved me.
Yeah.
And I get to release myself and run away.
Oh man,
This
has some good moments.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for just natural events to kind of come together in such a great way. And if it weren't so buggy, this would definitely be on my list of top 5.
It's gotten better.
I hear there was a whole slew of patches put out recently too.
They even added a whole bunch of content too.
Yeah. So that or Death by Daylight, one I have never touched, but is the same premise.
I like Friday the 13th better, I think, but Dead by Daylight's also pretty fun.
Yeah, I think atmospherically, I like Friday the 13th better. And then gameplay wise, Death by Daylight kind of has more options
Death
to
by
it.
Daylight definitely feels more like a game.
Yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to, if I die in Friday the 13th, I don't mind. Because it's interesting. Whereas Death by Daylight, I think if I died, I'd be like, whatever. I don't care. I don't care about this stupid game. And that brings me to my 5th place option, which was Persona 5. Because
Okay. So it'll only hit number 5, huh?
only hit number 5.
Did you finish it?
No.
No.
Do you think it would be higher if I finished?
No.
Persona games don't strike me as the kind that go up in status once you finish them.
I will say Persona 5 ends not as strong as Persona 4. Persona 4's ending is very strong. But the actual, I don't know, end part of that game, it's hit or miss for me.
Persona games have very anime endings.
Yeah, this one I think in particular is kind of, well, I mean, I'll get into it after everyone kind of maybe plays it or something.
Yeah.
But Persona 4 is awesome, and I don't think this hits Persona 4's level.
But I think it still fits in my 5th place spot because it's all the mechanics. It's such a refined game. I think this is the first Persona game to actually be released on the system that's current generation.
Yeah.
Besides the first one, because PS2 wasn't out when Persona Revelations came out.
Yeah.
And the music's so good.
Music is good.
The music is amazing.
Just walking around and all the activities, all the characters are fun and interesting.
The menus are good.
The menus, that was just some of the best menus.
Style.
Why don't more people make interesting menus?
Because that takes talent and vision.
Yeah,
Artistry.
I was looking at how many years Unity's been out, and they finally put in anything to help with UI. Like they finally were like, oh yeah, UI is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that kind of development mindset that I think we're coming from, where that we don't get more of these really interesting, colorful, easy to use menus. Like it's all of those things. Plus I just love the Persona series anyway. That's my top 5 list: Zelda, Divinity, Mario, Gorogoa, and Persona.
Interesting.
Nice.
That's my list.
Excellent.
See, isn't that more
It's a
interesting?
solid list.
Top down from me. You guys can do whatever you want because everybody's list is different, but I think I made the right choice.
Brandon.
I'm going to announce everyone else's top 5 except mine.
Whoa.
That's how I'm going to do it differently.
Okay.
No, I think if my alter ego living in a parallel universe, he played everything that I wanted to play,
Yeah.
and he has a different top 5 than I. But because I've only played a select few, and I played Dragon Quest IX and Xenoblade Chronicles X over again. I think I even replayed Ni no Kuni too.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and we're talking
Platinum it.
hundreds of hours.
Yeah, I mean, trying to complete these games. Honorable mentions games I enjoyed that had updates: Elite Dangerous and Final Fantasy XIV. I enjoyed both of those games.
Yeah.
Good games. My number 5, Persona 5.
Ah.
I don't know why it's not higher, but I just couldn't get into it.
Did you finish it?
No, I did not. I did the first
You did the gym teacher.
chapter, and I don't know why. I don't know if I'm just feeling Persona fatigue or what, but
For me, there's a lot of like analysis paralysis in that game, where I sit there on a single day, either in the morning or the afternoon, and I don't know what to do.
I'm sick of that. Yeah, I'm sick of trying to.
The time pressure.
Yeah, I almost just, I like doing the dungeons. I just like to do the dungeon running, and then a little of the school stuff. The school stuff was expanded, and I wish the dungeons would have been expanded, or at least the dungeon crawling.
I see where you're coming from.
Number 4, Shadow of Mordor.
Oh.
This game,
Shadow War.
Shadow of War. That is correct. Thank you.
Brandon went back in time
For
and
the
got Shadow of
correction,
Mordor. It's like, what a good game.
Lots of improvements. I think it would have been higher if didn't have the loot boxes.
Yeah.
Did that really affect you? Or was it just
put
the
it-
fact
it
that they
put
were
it-
there?
Well, it could have been my number 3.
Mm.
My number 1 and number 2 are so set. I had a hard
Yeah.
time deciding which. But Shadow of War, they've expanded everything, and I've talked about it. I like it. I still haven't beaten it, but I got to the point where you can kind of do your conquest, and it's just fun. Number 3, World of Final Fantasy.
Oh,
I
really?
think, yes, this game was great. It's had a slow start.
Mm-hmm.
It really was cheesy. I mean, it is cheesy,
Mm-hmm.
but the combat is interesting enough and strategic enough that kept me going. And then either I developed rose-colored glasses or it just got better. Like the dialogue just started to improve.
I've heard people say that this game is better than a lot of the past few mainline Final Fantasy games.
In a way, it is. It's better in areas.
Mm.
I mean, the combat is very interesting. I beat it, and I still wanted to play it. And there's dungeons I could do. So yeah, it's a very polished game. It's fun, and it has that collection aspect to it, where you kind of want to collect. You got to collect them all.
Mm-hmm.
So, World of Final Fantasy number 3, number 2, Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh.
This was going to be my number 1, but it got beat out by a game I played recently,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure everyone knows what it is. But Zelda was great. My only issue with it was it just didn't run great on the Wii U.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
It did not bother me in the slightest, actually. I mean, maybe a little bit, just in Kakariko Village or whatever.
Kakariko.
Kakariko Village. It But what bothered me is that they patched the Switch, but they didn't patch the Wii U. I'm like, why are you going to do one and not the other?
They might have done all they really could for the Wii U version. Might just be a hardware
You think
issue.
so?
It's possible.
They're like, if we push it anymore, it'll give up the ghost.
Well, it was great nonetheless. So, I mean, it only got beat. I mean, it deserves to be number one, but Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is just wonderful.
Did you beat that? Are you in the
Zelda?
middle of it? No, Xenoblade.
No, of course not. I beat X.
Yeah.
Chronicles 2, I'm still playing. I'm 33 hours in.
Aaron, it took him a year to beat
Yeah,
X.
no.
He's
Silly question.
He's still in the stages of Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is not as good as X. X is better.
That's fair.
The combat, however, is actually better in Chronicles 2.
Oh.
They took out things that I am surprised they took out. They took out Collectopedia. And you know what I'm talking about? Oh, okay.
He sounded believable though.
I love to collect things. They made a few changes, and I don't like the changes they made. They, in the original Xenoblade, it had achievements for everything. You had gazillion achievements, but they were in game, and they were just like little milestones. They took out all that. They took out the Collectopedia, and they added a bestiary to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's not in this one, which kind of, I don't know if it is. Maybe I haven't unlocked it, but I've unlocked all of the different categories in my menu. And they also took away, which was kind of useless. Like, I understand, but I was hoping that they would improve it and it would grow into something of value.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the relationship connection that when Xenoblade came out, that was one of the things that stood out. And it was that every NPC you talked to was a person with a name, and depending on who you talk to and how you talk to them, their relationship would grow with other people, and then they would change. And you would have what's called an affinity chart. And this affinity chart would show you all these different connections of all the different, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it was completely extensive, elaborate, but useless, because you didn't do anything other than just look at it. But it added story to it, and it made me want to talk to people, because it was just kind of, I wonder, and then you can kind of go back in there. It was even more useless in Xenoblade X because, I mean, there's so many people and so many alien races, and you're like, when is anyone ever going to look in here and be like, who is this person again? Like, you don't care. They're not offering you a quest. So they took out that. That was surprising. But the combat is great, and it's fun, and it makes sense. And Xenoblade X was just, oh my goodness. To this day, I'm still, there's all these different elements, and there's TP and GP and da-da-da and da-da-da. And then you have soul voices. I still, to this day, I know what soul voices are, but how to use it in a strategy, I don't know. It's just something that happens in the game. And you're like, use this skill. I'm like, okay, I'll use it. And it activated the soul voice. And then you see how many soul voices what kind of character you're leading to be. It's just, I mean, it really, so they cleaned it up. But the things that it nailed is the massive feel of just, I just love to jump in, and I had this with the original Elder Scrolls games, not so much with the later ones, but you just jump in and it's just mysterious. You can find all these different hidden corners and gems and secrets and chests and personality to the world. Whereas when you're playing a regular RPG, usually you just kind of go from point A to point B, and you want to talk to people, but this, I could literally spend hours just running around town, even if it didn't warrant me anything, just because it was interesting and it was fun. Like it was fun to just move around and jump and get to areas. I'm like, oh, here's a chest. Like, it may have useless stuff, but I've gotten some rare blades, and the combat. I still just unlocked some stuff. I'm on chapter 4. I love the Switch, man.
Yeah.
I played it on the go, and I'm like, wow, this is great. I went to a doctor's appointment, and I was just like, do. And you can actually put it to sleep, and boom. And so, originally I was closing out my game and then putting it to sleep, which is, I figured would turning it off, but you literally can just put it to sleep anywhere in the game and then come back to it at any time.
Yep.
So that's wonderful. So that's my number one, and that's my list. I don't think I have any other honorable mentions. I mean, I would if like I said, my alter ego, my doppelganger, he's played all the games that I want to play, like Resident Evil, and because he's rich and he doesn't have a job.
Yeah. He's very committed, but like to the wrong things, really.
Yeah. He won the lottery or something. And,
I will say with Xenoblade Chronicles, too, that every time you play it, I think you're playing Marvel vs. Capcom, like 2. Because of when the people attack and they all call out things, and there's like so many voices and they're always saying something, and then you hear like a special move going, and I'm like, who's playing that fighting game downstairs? And then I go down there and it's Brandon playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. And whoever creates Xenoblade, there's someone in that company that loves to troll people.
Oh yeah.
Because they'll create this beautiful game and they're like, okay, let's put a level 80 monster right here, just so once in a while it'll kill the player. That happens in every Xenoblade. I'm like, beginning area, I have to go here, but there's a level 88 running around killing people. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And everyone has died at least once.
Oh, certainly.
But, the creator's just griefing people. I'm like, no one's ever going to be able to kill that monster until
End of the game.
Post game. Yeah.
But it gives you that something, though.
It does. Like, that's the beauty of it. You see locations and areas and secrets. You're like, man, I really want to go there. I really want to see that. And what they added to here is just kind of more interaction, because you can't fly, and with a mech and Xenoblade Chronicles X, you can jump. I mean, you had like 1/8 gravity. You could just jump so high, and you can fall from any height.
That was really fun to do in that game.
That was. This is just you fall 20 feet, you almost die, And so here, I climbed up this big tree, and then it was a big water slide. And I mean, there was one where I took this slide that had to have been, I mean, if it was to scale, I don't know, half a mile. Took this water slide, and then you can jump at the end and get to this other area. So it's just like, yeah.
Nice.
Just fun.
Nice.
Cool. I'll go next, and
we'll wrap it up. No, just kidding.
I will want to point out a couple games that I thought actually looked interesting, but I never got around to playing.
Okay.
Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Oh yeah.
That game looks really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle.
Absolutely, that's on my list to buy.
That game looks
It's
really
going to be my
neat.
game of the year next year.
Cuphead.
Yes.
I have access to all 3 of these games. I have not touched any of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then honorable mentions. My favorite fighting game this year, Tekken 7.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Interesting.
That game is a
Tekken.
blast to play, and it's easily my favorite Tekken experience. Yakuza 0. I did not play enough of.
That was the re-release.
No.
That was brand new.
It's a brand new game.
Prequel.
That came out for the first time in English at the beginning of the year, and then they also released the remake of the first Yakuza game this year. So, but this game was. I've been a supporter of the Yakuza games. I've played them here and there. This is the first time I've felt like, oh, I want to get back to this and see more of this game.
Yeah, I used to play them in Japan where they were called Ryuga Gotoku.
Mm-hmm.
And
what was that? What does that mean? Like they're not called Yakuza in Japan?
No.
Because
I can't remember what
controversy
Gotoku means, but Ryu is like the dragon symbol.
Oh.
Isn't it like Way of the Dragon or something?
I don't know, because it's a verb. I don't know. I had to look it up.
Anyways, Destiny 2. I really enjoyed playing through.
That's Alter Ego's favorite.
I didn't stick with it. but I think that's okay.
Did you beat it?
I beat the single player, never did the raid.
You did the raid? Right?
No, I got invited to it, but that raid takes like 12 hours,
Yeah.
and I just was like,
12 hours?
Yeah, easily.
No way.
This expression on Brandon's
Because
face.
it's how difficult it is. Like certain sections are so hard that it takes people like 3 or 4 hours to do it.
But you do make progress and then come back?
You can.
You can, but you still have to. It's this huge time commitment, and I got invited. Like it was always like on a Friday at like 9 p.m. and I was just like, I'm elsewhere. I just didn't want to bother with it.
Yeah. Regardless, I really enjoyed that game. I think people should play it.
Mm-hmm.
Tacoma is an excellent game. It came out earlier this year. It's the one where developers have gone home and you're on a space station.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And there's like recordings of things that happened previously on the space station, but no one else is there when you're there. And it's going through and discovering the stories of these people that were on the station and what happened to them. And it's a really good story, and it's told in an interesting way. It had some neat turns I didn't see coming.
You finished?
I finished it. It's not a long game.
Yeah.
So if you get the chance and you see it on sale and you're in for a narrative experience like that, you should check it out. And lastly, Wolfenstein 2.
These are honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions.
Yeah. Okay.
So it didn't make your list.
Did you have
Did
the
not
same
make my list. Just it has issues with gameplay that held it back for me from being a more fulfilling experience. The story is really good. The characters are really good. It's really crazy, and it's worth playing.
But it is a video game, and gameplay counts.
Yeah, it does. And there were times where it was needlessly frustrating for me. And just weird design decisions that make you think like, you could have done this a different way. I don't know. So that's why it's not... I would probably put that at like a 6 or something on my list. Number 5, Persona 5. Just
wow, that's all over number 5s. Yep. Well, yet to know what Mike has, but
we'll see.
so far.
3 of our number 5s. Yeah, and I really enjoyed playing that. I played through the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like we mentioned, just it's not, to me, it's not quite as good as the previous Persona. Well, at least Persona 4. I think it's better than 3. I enjoyed it better than 3.
See, I liked 3 a lot. There's something missing. I don't know what it is. It's like that thing I cannot name. That Persona 5 that just it didn't hook me. Maybe because I didn't give it time.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe the
didn't
pacing.
shoot themselves in the head. That's why.
What's that?
It's because they didn't shoot themselves in the head. And Brandon's
That
like,
was pretty
"Get
gnarly."
this."
Well, there's a lot of mystery in Persona 3 about like what was really going on and the nature of everything.
The concept of 3, I thought, was fantastic.
Yeah.
Just this whole hour of where everyone is in a coffin.
Or it's like, what is this thing?
Yeah.
Not emo enough. It's I almost long for a time when I didn't have to worry about my intelligence, my charisma, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm a big fan of 2s, the 2s,
Yeah.
and 1 even. And
These are definitely different kind of games.
it's a different kind of game.
Maybe
And I
that's-
think if you remove those things, people would be like, "What? This is what Persona is all about." And I'd be like, "Yay!" And I'd run through, and I'd go to the casino all day because I could. And I'd be like, "Oh,
Play
I love the
Codebreaker.
casino. Codebreaker, 100%."
Yeah.
But Persona 4, I think, had an awesome premise with just murder
that was cool,
mystery.
too.
That's something that hook you, keep going.
I did like just backwater town in Japan. I was like, "Oh, it feels like home."
And what Persona 5 has going for it the most is just kind of streamlined gameplay, interesting style,
It's so cool.
music.
Everything's so cool in that game.
So that's really what kept me going through that game, and it delivered on that. Number 4, Super Mario Odyssey. And I really enjoyed my time playing this game, and I think it has a really awesome moments, which I didn't expect really from a Super Mario game. Usually I just expect fun stages, but they gave you more than that. But for whatever reason, it like I never felt compelled to see more of that game that I already saw. I went and did like a lot of the challenge stuff and I had fun, but I don't feel the drive to go and see everything else.
Yeah.
I think you were kind of touching on that. But yeah, I don't know. There was just something about it that, like, I think it definitely made some smart decisions as far as the design of the worlds that really rewarded exploration and everything like that. But I think it was just something else keeping me from putting it higher on my list this year. There's just a lot of stiff competition, probably.
Yeah.
From games like my number 3, Resident Evil 7.
Oh,
Nice.
This game is beautiful. I love the decisions that they made about this game. Just having it be first person out of nowhere. Like, I remember when they debuted it last year and they showed stuff from the demo from this first person. They didn't say what game it was. They showed all these things and everyone is just confused about what the hell this game could be. And they revealed it as Resident Evil 7 and everyone was blown away. But despite the changes, it still feels like a Resident Evil game.
It feels more like a Resident Evil game than a lot of other games.
Than any game since before 4. And so, and it's back to its horror roots. And it's easily the scariest Resident Evil game.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, it's probably the most full-fledged, fully satisfying VR experience you can probably get. And, you know, I've only played bits and pieces of it in VR, but they're so effective.
It's the VR experience that was sold to us.
Yeah.
And nothing else is delivered on it but Resident Evil 7.
I think games are starting to get to that point, because if they can do a game like Resident Evil 7, the sky's the limit as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, it's unexpected in a lot of ways, really clever. It's a cool game. Number 2, Nier Automata. I could say a lot about this game, but I think it might give too much away about it, other than I see a lot of people talk about the themes of the game, about, you know, people rating Nier too highly because it's just another game or story about can robots be human or something like that. But that's not what this game is about at all. It touches on a lot of really deep and interesting themes about like life and purpose in general, and it's something that should be experienced completely through, because there's things called routes. People kind of say they're endings, but they're not really endings, because you play through the first main part of the game, then you play through a second time with a different perspective, and then you play the rest of the game. So it's completely new content after that. And it's weird that they made this choice to like give you end credits after reaching this certain point, because I think a lot of people will get to that point and be like, okay, well, I've seen enough of the game, and I don't really want to play through it and, you know, go through all that stuff again. And that is such a wrong way to play this game. It's storytelling, little like tricks And there's a sequence in this game that is profoundly moving. And I don't want to get into it, and I wish I could. But
I'm very sad I have not finished this game.
It's really incredible what they do in a certain sequence of this game. A lot of the parts of the game, really, but one in particular that it would really ruin the experience to have it described to you. But yeah, it's an incredible game, and you should check it out. And number one, of course, Legend of the Zelda: Breath of the Wild.
Legend of the Zelda.
Legend of the Zelda.
Breath of Wild.
Breath of Wild. Yeah, I mean, we all played this game. Everyone played this game. I don't want to like be like, oh, this game's so popular, everyone's gonna have it as game of the year, but it deserves it.
Yeah.
And I also want to address some complaints people have about the game where they talk about, the weapon durability.
I love the weapon durability
Feature.
And
That's a feature.
I feel like saying, oh, the weapon durability is great is like just not good enough, because the reason why it's great is that either you have the mindset or you don't. And if you don't have the mindset, you'll never accept any excuse for the weapon durability. But if you do have this mindset, you have the mindset of embracing creativity of combat and
improvisation
and just having fun with the environment and the world.
It's managing resources. We have all these games where we manage resources. Zelda did it with its weapons. So now it's a resource. You have to seek out, find it, and manage it.
I had so many fights that were quote unquote wrong. That I just did wrong, but they were so good. Such good fights.
And like, I can see why people would be upset about having a really cool sword break on them.
Yeah, my whole thing with it is that it encourages you to further explore, because you're always looking for more items. Yeah, you can never become comfortable. So
they could argue that it's just artificial, but I don't think that's the case.
I liked it.
I think it's a really interesting choice that Nintendo made, and either it affects you, and this is one of the best games you've ever played, or it doesn't, and you're really confused by the decisions that they made.
I've chucked better weapons into the ocean to pick up something out of a chest. I was like, I know this is a worse weapon, but I want this one, and I just like threw some lightning sword, and I was like, there you go.
You know what I really love is just that ability to throw any weapon that you have.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so satisfying.
Satisfying throwing a boomerang, and
yes.
Yeah. I hate
having to manually catch it every time,
or just watch it ping off something and then just fly. Like, no.
Yeah. So it's like, I understand why you might feel that way about this game, but there's a better way to experience this game, and I hope you can see it when you play it. That's it. Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I'll go through my honorable mentions. So starting, I'll do Wolfenstein 2 as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For all the reasons that Aaron mentioned, great characters, great story. But there were just some combat sequences in that game that just brought it down. Courtroom. The end battle was like, you never felt like you were an awesome Nazi stomper.
The courtroom battle should have been the most overpowered that you could be. It should have been the most satisfying action sequence of that game.
Yeah, and it's just a frustrating arena slog that you just go. That was actually the moment where I turned the difficulty down. And that's another issue that I have with the game, is the difficulty settings they're misleading, because like I put it on normal experience, because it's like, if you played first-person shooters and you just want to play it on normal, play this. And I was like, okay. And it just ground me up in a hamburger, and it wasn't fun. And so when I put it down to normal casual, that was actually what I was looking for. And then I actually started to feel a little bit more empowered. But that said, the environments for such an amazing setting as a Nazi dominated America, there was only a few sequences where you actually got to kind of see the day to day, like in Roswell. But most of the time you just spend your time, all the levels and maps are just in, here's yet another industrial military complex. Just
a lot of
metal
railings and
it's
guards
like
on patrol.
It didn't really look any different than the Mars base from Doom. It's just like this could be any game. You're just like, it just didn't really invoke anything particularly special. But like the story and everything is just so crazy and unpredictable. And
Josh, do you know anything that happens in this game?
I know somebody trips out on LSD.
No.
Oh, that's nothing. That's yeah.
I mean, some stuff.
I would say that you should play it still. You shouldn't go to YouTube and just watch the cutscenes. It should still be played. Just go into it, playing it on easy or like normal casual or something.
Easy, filthy casual.
Yep.
I want to say that, but I kind of feel like experiencing the story of this game, I mean, a lot of people probably would have a really hard time going through the actual game of Wolfenstein.
Yeah. I wish it, because it almost delivers on Doom action and it just doesn't get there. So anyways, Neo, which is super good, and loved it to pieces, and played it for like 30 or 40 hours, and then other games came out and it just got me distracted. But I felt like my time with it was very satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first game where I actually could understand the Dark Souls mentality of going through and just dying and losing everything, and always that risk and super hard bosses. But unlike the Souls games, I love the Japanese setting, and I love the loot. It was Diablo style loot, and the combat I think was just so good. The 3 different stanzas that you had to go into enemies. So yeah, that game, it was a really nice comeback for Team Ninja after a slew of bad character action games with those Ninja Gaiden 3 and on.
Oh yeah.
So it was nice to see them come back and really make something super good and special. I would put Nier on there. I guarantee you this would be very high on my top 5. Very high, but I'm only on the first route, and I know that most of the stuff that really makes this game special, I haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
That said, it easily has the best soundtrack.
Oh yeah,
of the year.
To mention.
Like nothing even comes close to it.
Yeah.
The combat, which I see people complain. It's like, oh, it's not Platinum's best. And it's like, for me, it does everything I want it to do, which is like, I play character action games. I don't like typically memorize the long combos. I just want to mash stuff and cool things happen, and that's what happens. And I find it satisfying.
It's got a kind of a forgiving dodge.
Yeah, and then like you can trigger into like an air combo, and there's cool stuff that happens in it. So, but my time with it so far is very, very positive. Injustice 2, fantastic fighting game, super good graphics, really good facial animation. The single player was everything I wanted a DC movie to be, where it's just like really fun and bombastic and over the top, and you get all your heroes in there and they all have a moment, and the story makes sense, and there was never an eyebrow. I mean, I guess they shoehorn some parts in there, but like all the stuff with Brainiac is just so good, and good voice acting. They bring back a lot of the voices from the old animated Justice League cartoon, which is great. Love the arc with Superman's, and then the multiplayer flawless netcode for the most part. I had a lot of fun with my time on that, and I could see myself going back to it eventually. There's just so many good games this year.
Yeah.
Life is Strange didn't come out this year, came out in 2015. But had I played it in 2015, it definitely would have been in my top 5 of that year. I played it almost a year ago, January of 2017, and it's still a game that I continuously think back on. The twists and the turns, and I went into it completely blind, so I didn't even know about the rewind mechanics. So when that happened, I was like, "Whoa, this is what you can do in this!" And there's a moment in this game that takes place on top of the school that had me at the edge of my seat in a way that a game has never had me, and it was super suspenseful, and definitely a high. And also it was just great to experience this type of game because this is usually outside of my typical field of tastes. But I think this was a good one to do because it was very well executed on. I really like the story. I like the characters. I like the fact that everybody is very human in this. There's sides of people that you like and dislike, just like people, and it also goes against like typical like storytelling tropes where it's like, oh, this guy is obviously this, but then it turns out, oh no, he's not. There's actually like a decent side to this guy that you just don't see before. So I really like that. And then of course Overwatch. I'm not going to talk about that, but I mean 2017 year was a year of Overwatch. And I mean I have a Tracer body pillow apparently, so I guess I like Overwatch. All right, so my top 5. So number 5, Uncharted Lost Legacy. This was a surprise. I mean, not a surprise that Uncharted was good because it's always good, or Naughty Dog delivered a good game, but just a surprise in how quick of a turnaround they had on this because it was just over a year from Uncharted 4. And still delivered an experience that was like super expansive and actually did things that was different from the regular series with an open world segment. The quest that you go on is really cool, and the fact that you play as Chloe and not as Nathan, and it's still every bit as delightful and charming. And I would say that the relationship, the friendship that builds between Chloe and Nadine is one of the most like well-written, organic, and natural bonding of two people that I've seen in not only just video games, but like just in media, because typically people are friends because the plot tells now you're friends and there's no other reason for it. But this, like they start off not liking each other and it's very, very slow, gradual change to where they gain a mutual respect and then friends. And then the ending of that game is just a wonderful callback to one of the best sequences in any Uncharted game. And I was so happy that they did it again, but without like making it feel like a complete rehash. But yeah, just awesome. Just loved every minute of it. And it was like a full game too. It took me like 9.5 hours to get through it.
Wow.
Assassin's Creed Origins is my number 4.
Oh.
I haven't completed it, but every time I play it, there's just more and more that I notice and immerse myself in. It's wonderful kind of reboot of the series, like a soft reboot. They got rid of a lot of the things that really bugged me in the game, like sticking on every surface when you're trying to like move around.
Right.
The combat that plays more like Dark Souls now, where it's more like dodging in and out and looking for opportunity. And it's very satisfying. You know, they added loot, which is it's not the most fantastic loot system in the world, but you know, it's always cool when you get like a gold item and it's got a name to it and there's like a little story or something behind it. But yeah, just that world of Egypt that they created is so well realized and so lived in, and it makes me want to learn more about that society. And many times I do, because like I came across this pyramid called the Bent Tomb of Seferu, and I was like, whoa, I didn't know there was a crazy looking pyramid that looked like this. And so I went and read all about it, and I was like, oh wow. And then the thing is too, is like when I was reading about it, they actually had diagrams of what the inside looks like, and it's all modeled exactly the same, like when you go inside of it. And yeah, just awesome stuff like that, and just the right amount of like mysticism to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to spoil anything. Brandon already actually knew about this, so I think this has been public knowledge, but I ran into a thing in this game that was the most like weird and crazy and cool thing I've ever experienced in an Assassin's Creed game. It had nothing to do with the story. It was just a thing that happened, and I was like, what? It just didn't expect it. So that I'm always delighted by stuff like that. So my number 3 is Mario Odyssey. It basically goes on there just for Jump Up Superstar alone and the sequence that it is part of, which is just a wonderful tribute to the history of Mario. It's a great song. New Donk City is probably my favorite level of any 3D Mario game, including the Galaxy games. Now, I don't place it as high as Galaxy 1 or 2, but I definitely like it more than the other 3D Marios. And I say I place it behind, but it's like just barely behind.
Yeah.
The ending is had me in tears. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny.
Tears of pain.
Sure. Because my wrists were hurting. But yeah, like it was also like the first Mario where I really enjoyed the water levels because you can throw your hat on the fish.
Yeah.
And I actually looked forward to the different water environments that you go to. And the other thing is just like the sheer amount of gameplay that they put into this. Like every world is packed with so many surprises and different activities for you to do. And they never overstay their welcome. And it's always just something to look forward to because you just never know what you're going to get in the next world. My number 2 is Horizon Zero Dawn. I spent 90 plus hours with this game. I absolutely adored it. I think it's probably my favorite Sony first party game that they've ever made that I've played, including God of War, which I did
over Uncharted, or is that Naughty Dog?
That I would kind of consider that. Yeah, that's a good question.
Is that a first party game?
It technically is. I mean, it's at least up there. It's tied with that. It's really cool. The world that they created with the mystery behind it of like, why is the world in this state? What happened? Why are these machines here? And I really like the fact that they explore like man's relationship with these machines and the different like tribal kind of viewpoints that exist and like very well defined cultures between the different ones. Definitely has amazing combat. I really like the combat a lot. The menu system could definitely use improvement for the next one. The inventory management in this game sucks, which is probably about the only downside to it. But it basically was the BioWare game that BioWare didn't deliver this year because it has like the dialogue wheel and the intriguing story. But unlike BioWare, it was super polished.
This might be the best looking game I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy are both definitely like eye candy, but because this is open world, it goes that much further.
The environments are crazy detailed.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's like I grew up in Southwest United States, so I've been to a lot of the places that this game takes place in. It's like, oh, here's Lake Powell, and here's Bryce Canyon, and here's Yellowstone, and it's like no other game really is set there, and it surprised me that it's like, oh, I'm in southern Utah now and northern Arizona. It just seemed really cool, and and I really liked the main character Aloy a lot. I thought she was cool. Ashley Birch just did such a good job doing her voice acting and stuff.
Who did it again?
Ashley Birch.
Ashley Birch. Yep. And then so there's my number 1, which is Zelda. Breath of the Wild. It edges out Horizon because it does something with the open world that no other open world game has done. Assassin's Creed, I can tell, like, even though it came out in the same year, they took some lessons from it, and that they don't just litter your map with stuff, and you can climb on anything, which is really good.
Yes.
But Zelda's world is easily the most magical and awe-inspiring open world that I have experienced since the first time I played World of Warcraft back in 2004. There was just something about like running around at night and seeing a shooting star overhead and going into an open field where there's just all these dead machines of a war that was fought, a century or whatever it was, and tells a story, and seeing what kind of in your mind coming up with what had happened there without Nintendo just being like, oh, this is what happened here. But it's like, it makes you use your imagination in a way that like old games did. And, there was just like little moments in this game, like walking by this this giant mountain, and there's this pillar of light, and I could see it all over the map, and I was like, man, what is going on with this pillar of light? I need to see that. And it wasn't every night. It was just kind of like random. And so finally I just made my way over there, and there was this like, sakura tree with, petals like in this lagoon, and this pillar of light, and then there's just like this spirit animal, and you could try to ride it, and it was surrounded by these like little spirits, and it really serves no purpose other than it's just absolutely amazing, and it's just something that you discover, and it's not plotted on your map. It's like, oh, I see this pillar from a long ways away, I want to see what this is. And it just made me feel like I was that kid when I first played the first Zelda or like Dragon Warrior, or those kind of like adventure games. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. And I mean, I will go as far as saying is that not only do I think it's the best Zelda game, but I think it's probably the best game Nintendo has made.
Yeah.
Like straight up. And that's including my love for Super Mario World and Super Metroid. This game has done something for me that like a game hasn't done in a very long time. And so it really deserves that number one spot.
Okay.
There you go.
Well,
Thank you.
We'll now take this list of all our games.
And Minnie will eat it, and whichever one she vomits back up.
So
those
I'm
will
the
be our
only
top four.
I'm the only one who didn't have Zelda as number one, but I had it as number two. So I think that's safe to say that Zelda should be number one.
Yeah, I would say so. But the rest of the list, how does everyone feel about?
We have to fight it out.
I mean, I feel very strongly about having Horizon on the list. And I know that I'm going to get a bunch of pushback, but I'm going to dig my heels on this one because Josh doesn't like it, and Brandon has been passive aggressive towards it.
I just can't get into it.
Yeah,
but I could see it's a very beautiful and it looks like a very fun game.
And Aaron has very little experience with it, so and actually I don't really know how you feel about it.
I like it.
Okay. But for me, it was like, I mean, I spent so much time this year playing it, and even when the expansion came out, I dropped everything so I could play like another 15, 20 hours of it, and it was awesome.
I really like the game, but it was hard to go back to after I played Zelda.
Yeah, see, that was my thing, is like, I don't own a Switch, so I had to wait until Josh was done. So I played Zelda much later than everybody, so all I had was Horizon. I didn't have anything to distract me from it. But that said, I mean, I played Assassin's Creed and Zelda before I played the expansion and got right back into it. Like, Horizon's world isn't trying to do what those games is trying to do. Horizon is more about like the combat for me and the story. The open world could almost be linear because, like, I know Josh brought this up and I see his point on this. It's like when you select a quest, there's just a waypoint that just kind of like shows you. You just follow it right to where you need to go. And, you know, there could be an argument where it's just like, this could almost just be like a level and I could just go here. But I appreciated the fact that it was an open world because it made the environments super expansive to actually do the combat. And some of those scenarios just get so out of control where it's like 5 different species of machine all fighting each other and you.
Mm-hmm.
And it just goes into chaos, and it's like how you manage this and setting up all your traps, your tripwires and your sticky bombs and your mines. And like was always satisfying every time, even when I killed like the smallest watcher, the smallest enemy. The sound design is just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed, but I definitely think there's 2 games that should be on the top 4, and those are Persona 5 and Super Mario, because they're the ones that are repetitive on our list.
I have a proposition.
Okay.
Nier should be on over Persona 5.
I would actually
That's fine.
agree with that, even though I haven't finished Nier.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing how I feel about Nier now,
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that.
Because the only reason I say Persona 5 is that none of us were super strong on it. And I think this list needs to be the games that we're really passionate about. And I can see those 4 games being our top 4. But what order?
Well, I mean, Josh, do you want to make a case for Divinity? Or for one of your other games?
Not really. Divinity's great, but I know that it's not everybody's kind of game.
Mm.
I mean, I think I would like it. The only reason why I didn't play is because I just don't have a rig.
It
could run it.
is.
Yeah, it would probably be on mine.
Yeah.
If the first one, maybe buy a PC, and the second one only looks better.
It's I don't know. It's difficult.
Would you put that game over any other games that are on this list currently?
Um.
Don't feel bad if you want to argue off Horizon. This is what makes this show good.
Horizon. Let's talk about Horizon. Is there any other game that we would want on this list?
Brandon?
I almost feel like Resident Evil should be on this list.
I could see that being on the list too. I don't think any of my games. The only one I'm passionate about is Xenoblade, but
You're always
it's like my own like psychosis.
you're like happy with your own list, and it doesn't really matter what we've.
Brandon writes
But
his own
that's-
list. He looks at it. He puts it on the wall, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's the other list."
That
but-
has not been true in the past, though, because you argued Dragon Age right off the top 4 in our first one to get
That's
Divinity.
because I played that all the way through.
Yeah.
I did beat that game. These other games I want to play,
In
and
hindsight,
I can
Brandon
imagine
was
them. What?
I said in hindsight, Brandon was right.
Well, I think my list is poor. I Zelda and Xenoblade are the only ones worthy of a top 5.
I think you mentioned earlier, like you didn't have the breadth of
the
games
wild.
to play to really choose a.
Yeah, it was a season. It was a year of last year gaming, couple year gaming because financial and just I was finishing up school, so I think that I'm fine with Zelda. I'm not going to argue Xenoblade because it's
gorgeous.
it is, but these other games too are just more massively appealing.
Yeah,
Xenoblade is so niche.
Speaking of Mass Effect Andromeda, put it on the list.
do we have a list of
Just
bad
cross
games?
off all of Mike's choices and all of Mike's games.
and we'll put Mass Effect Andromeda on there.
And
instead.
he's no longer part of this podcast.
For Divinity, let me. I will set a scene that happened in Divinity. So I'm not going to argue it to go on the list, but there's a scene where there's a guy who's about to be executed, and you come in. And you're like, depending on your choices, you're like, well, I don't want him to die. Maybe you do, depending on your choices. In my case, I did not want him to die. So I initiate a fight with the guys who are going to kill him. I teleport myself up there because I have these crazy skills that let me just traverse huge distances and start fighting. And then the guy who's captured uses a spell that creates a storm. And so now there's a huge storm just kind of raging all around us as we're on this big giant scaffolding.
Is that like scripted or is it just something
I think he always
Yeah,
initiates it.
probably.
I think that's how he escapes his bonds.
Okay.
No matter what you do, if you're going to fight him or if you're going to fight the other guys, he escapes his bonds. But when you use Source, which is magic in this world, it creates a rip, and all these beasts of just like tar kind of appear all around the stage. And they all want to get to the Source, which is now in the center where you are. So they start traversing, and then the guys you're fighting start fighting those things because they're giant monsters, and you're all going around. And then I lit them on fire. Everything was on fire.
Oh, by the way, I lit them on fire.
I lit everything on fire. I was
They're
like,
all
yes,
Burn.
burn. And it was just great. And I had guys that were standing in fire because they got better when they were standing in fire. And then fire elementals came. They were summoned by the chaos. So now it's working against me. And now I have to make puddles of water that I'm turning into steam that kind of magically cover whole areas so that I can put out the fire that I accidentally created. And that's Divinity. I don't think it should be in the top 4, but that's a fun game. You should play that game.
Yeah.
I think if more of us played Divinity, it might have a
Yeah.
better case.
If we had
It'd
played,
be on my top 5, definitely.
if we had
I
played a DM'd game, because you can
Oh.
DM games in that. Where
Really?
one person's the DM and everybody else is like players, and then they go in and you do things,
That'd
you
be
put stuff
crazy.
places. It's kind of neat.
oh boy.
So Resi 7, I did play like an hour of it, and that game's real good.
played the
I
demo.
think you would love Resident Evil 7.
Yeah,
I feel like it should be there. I mean, it is a VR like experience, right?
my only argument, and I haven't experienced this firsthand, but it's just from what I know of it, is that I guess the back third of the game is poor. Like it doesn't deliver on the family stuff.
I don't think that's true at all. I think it delivers on the family stuff, but I think the weakest part is probably in that back third, but I do think it ends strong.
I would agree. Having watched
watch
100% of the game.
I've watched the ending of that game, and it is a weird ending.
I would say it deserves to be above Persona 5. In fact, I'm fine with Persona 5 not being on the top 5.
Well,
What's the
I think what we're
top
arguing
4, I'm
here
sorry.
probably is
In addition to?
because right now we have Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
we have
Mario.
Mario,
Nier
and then Nier and Horizon.
and Resident Evil.
If we want Resident Evil on here, is it going to replace one of those?
I'd say it replaces Mario.
Ooh, Mario. That's an
Yep.
interesting choice.
I would agree with that, but it's up to everybody else.
I think so because it's more of a culminated list. I feel that it's very Mario, Zelda, it's very lopsided. And Nier and Horizon and Resident Evil are so out in their own extreme way that they excel in what they do.
Mario is on everybody's list but yours because you didn't play it.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel
Yeah.
good about leaving Mario off that.
Do you feel passionate enough about it, though?
I mean,
I think that's the thing about Mario is that everyone really likes it and deserves to be recognized, but I don't think anyone feels particularly that passionate about it.
I mean, if it came down to Horizon and Mario, I would choose Horizon.
Right.
But
Why do I feel like the only man in the world who hates Horizon?
you're not though.
Yeah.
Everyone else but me is
That's-
indifferent towards it.
That's the funny thing is you played it more than any of us here with the exclusion of Mike.
Yeah, I played it like, what, 30, 40 hours?
So
It's
it's hard to say you hate something when you play it that long.
I think my issue with Horizon might be the similar issue to what my issue an issue, just a general kind of issue with Mario, is that all the other games I feel take a chance, and Horizon is it's really well executed, but it's I feel like it's a little safe in certain ways. I think Mario is a little safe in certain ways, but they did enough out there to make it like special. But the other 4 games that were left, I feel like are a little more experimental. Yeah.
That is my one thing. I actually did mean to bring that up in my Mario discussion, is that I think the only reason why it didn't place as higher on my list is because it was another good Mario game.
Yeah.
Like Zelda reinvents the Zelda formula like completely.
Yeah.
And Mario was like, well, here's a really good version of Mario.
It's them going back to something that they did really well previously and improving upon it incrementally. Which is good.
And deserves, says something.
Yeah, it deserves to be noted.
But man, the Jump Up Superstar segment is so good. I mean, I was smiling ear to ear during that entire part. I mean, everything on New Donk City was just great. The way you assemble the band members, and it's slowly making a beat, and then when you finally get them all together, it's playing the most awesome cover of the Super Mario 1-1 theme ever. And I also just appreciate it because of all of it's a game of secrets.
Yeah.
You know, and something that Nintendo does that a lot of other companies have forgotten about really is just like secrets. And Mario just does that so well. It's like everywhere you look, it's like, oh, there's this kind of mound over here. What if I butt stomp it? Oh, it's a shrine. Or I'm sorry, it's a moon. And it just rewards you all the time for just finding those secrets.
If you want Mario, I would say then you'd probably have to possibly sacrifice Horizon.
I would almost say near, just because not enough of us have experienced it.
See,
if I made a list on what games I think I would like.
Right. On this list of games that Brandon has not played.
From what I've heard, and my top 4 for the Game Rushmore would be number 1 Zelda, number 2 Resident Evil, Nier, and Horizon. That would be it.
Interesting.
But I could probably Mario could switch with any of those.
So the issues I have with Horizon are very
Josh-like?
Fundamental, I think, is the word I was looking for. The characters are so... I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the capture that I don't like, that really jars me, because they are static in ways that gets me different from the way that they are.
And the developer did address that with the expansion. The expansion is way better motion capture on the NPCs and stuff like that.
Because they are so... I guess it's an uncanny valley. It's like their face is projected onto a doll.
Well, let's face it, kid, Aloy is terrifying.
Yeah, so that's true.
She's terrifying. She looks like Warwick Davis in Willow.
There are 3 vendors, not counting the collectible receiving guys, throughout the whole world that are just copy and pasted.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of RPGs are that way. Like,
that's not a good argument.
Well, I mean, it's just a weird thing to be like, oh, the vendors don't have an elaborate backstory.
Not elaborate like they don't even talk. They can't talk. None of them talk.
Yeah.
There's even like you're at a training ground with this one guy, and he's talking to you. He's like, "Oh, somebody to talk to, hey." And she's like, "What about this guy right here?" And he's like, "Oh, he doesn't talk much." And that's it. Like, that's it for that vendor. And then you can go up to him and you buy the same thing that you can buy at every other vendor, which bugged the crap out of me. Because I
can see how that could be a down.
Yeah, I just
or a negative aspect of the game.
It didn't feel like I needed to be anywhere in Horizon. Anywhere where I was, it was the same as being anywhere else. The only difference were the monsters, and that's it. The monsters, the dinosaurs, or the what do you call them? Robots.
I think, well, the only thing for Horizon that, how I see it, like I see Monster Hunter, unless I'm in a mood to do one thing, I don't want to play the game. Like, Monster Hunter is all about killing monsters. If I don't want to do that, I don't want to play the game, because there's nothing else to do in the game, really. I mean, you're crafting things, and Horizon does have a story, and it's supposed, it's a great story from what I hear. Unless I'm in a mood to have these elaborate, intensive battles, I'm not, That's why it's like I feel I have to be in a mood to play.
Yeah, there's other stuff to do, like the collectibles and stuff like that, but it's I feel like a lot of that just wasn't engaging. It was just, I don't know. There's a lot of things that get said about Horizon, and I'll give it the compliments that it deserves in my mind, which would be combat's fun. And by combat, I'm assuming my bow and arrow. Just bow and arrow mechanics are great. Some of the other stuff get kind of clunky. The traps are fine. There's one guy who's trying to teach you, what are they called? They're the hunter proving grounds. And there's this one where you're supposed to shoot some logs to kill a bunch of like gazelle type grazers. And it says use your bomb thing to guide them. I was like, okay, cool. And then I shot my bomb, and then they ran in a different direction. I was like, all right, cool. And then I went and I was like, shot my bomb again, and they ran in a different direction than I wanted. And I was like, all right.
Get good.
Well, that's the thing. They were scripted in their pathing. They went in a particular direction that was already pre-scripted. It wasn't natural. So it didn't matter where I launched my bombs. They were always going to be spooked into a specific direction.
It's a tutorial, though.
And
they don't behave like that in any other environment.
But they do. Whenever a group of, say, grazers run, they always run to the same specific location. So I would get in there, and the big stalkers, the big ones before in the snow area still, not the Ravagers, but the stalkers, I think they're called, had a specific range that I discovered. So I knew exactly what their range was. They'd have a pattern, and then from within that, if you procced them, they would move within a specific range. So I stood just outside of range, not hiding, and then I would attack them, and then they would run after me, and then they'd lose interest before they reached me, and then they went back to their normal patterns. There's a lot of things.
So what are you saying? It doesn't deserve to be on the top 4?
I don't know. Like, I wouldn't cry if it wasn't.
Okay.
Well, at this point, I think didn't you say we'd be okay with having Horizon, Resident Evil, Nier, and Zelda on the list?
That was Brandon.
Well, is that something you're okay with?
I'm almost okay with it, but
What's stopping you?
I like Mario a lot.
You'd like Mario over Horizon?
Yes. I think I can say that unequivocally.
And
but I don't
want
necessarily like
Mario and Horizon on the list.
Yeah, I just a lot of the things that, like, story-wise that I would talk about Horizon are major spoiler stuff. But like, I really thought there's a character that you meet a little bit into the game. His name is Silence, and I loved that character. I thought he was intriguing and sinister, or maybe not. Like, he was one of those he kind of this is a Star Trek reference. I guess I won't use that. But he's just one of those characters where it's like you don't really know where he's gonna go at any time. And I liked his arc, and I liked like Rost, her kind of surrogate dad or whatever. Like, I thought he was really good. And I really like just the culture, like just how distinct like the Banuk are so different from like the Nora, and and just like all the history that they put into there, like the Mad King, and like putting everybody into that like sundial and just like burning people alive, and like you just find out about all this history, and then that because of this Mad King, there's like all this animosity that kind of exists between everybody that didn't before. And
but they're all there talking to each other. That's what gets me. So
Well-
we just got over an age where this Mad King was killing different tribes.
But-
and then there was an uprising, and the new king took over, and he didn't like any of those policies.
But it's still like there's still a bunch of tension. Like it gets brought up a lot. But the city Meridian is the capital. Like it's the center of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of tension in all kinds of cities around the world with diverse cultures, but they're still there talking
Right.
to each other. So it's not unrealistic. And even in Meridian, there's like social uprising and stuff. Like people protest. There's a lot of people who don't like the new king for being soft or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like the actual like story of the apocalypse itself, I thought was a really good take on it. And because it doesn't do the typical apocalypse stuff. And on the surface, it seems like it does, but like when you dig deep into it, it's actually takes some interesting turns and stuff to it. And it's stuff that I wish I could talk about, but like I would hope that someday you would play.
I think the amount of time that you've put into it, that you've talked about it, and that you've played with the expansion shows that it's a good game.
I mean,
But it just, is it better than Mario?
well, yeah, it's higher on my list. So
Okay.
the thing is like I don't necessarily I don't necessarily disagree with everything that Josh says. Like it's not perfect. I mean, this is
Not like Xenoblade.
this is Guerrilla Games' first
Gotta throw that
open
in
world
there.
game that they've ever made. So of course it's gonna kind of follow like it's very Ubisoft in its approach to open world design.
Mm-hmm.
But like you come across so like the collectibles, like there's vantage point ones. And so you go up and you find those and you get audio logs or like video clips and stuff of story of like the people who lived before the apocalypse. And so it's all there to flesh out this world that they created. And these vantage points would always take you to a place where you just get a nice panoramic view of just an awesome vista. And I've never played with photo modes in any game before. And Aaron can testify that I sent him like a billion pictures of a horizon where I was like, oh, look at this. And oh, look at that. And yeah, I mean, it does fall into typical open world trappings. But we live in a post Zelda world now.
Yeah.
But I can still accept it for that, for what it is. Like I can't hold everything to Zelda's standard, otherwise everything sucks.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, I liked Aloy like a lot. I thought she was a really good, strong like character without ever being like a pandering. It's like I'm the strong female or anything like that. It never panders to that. It's just like she's a strong, smart, intelligent person that happens to be a girl, and I appreciate it for that. Like it was. I don't know.
But because I like the idea of Brandon's list that it's gonna exclude Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, like as much as I hate to say it, it's just like it would either be Nier or Resident Evil 7, and that's just because most of us haven't experienced like those games. But the same, I guess, could be said for Horizon.
The only reason I would exclude Mario is because Zelda was on there. If Zelda wasn't,
Nah,
I would-
Nintendo had a really good year.
huh?
Are you saying it's because it's another Nintendo game?
It's because it's a sequel. They're building on something that has existed for a long time, and it doesn't push the envelope. And I mean, it does in ways, I guess, but I mean, it's a packaged, polished game that is very specific. So I
mean, like,
So it sounds like the prevailing consensus is that we knock Mario off the list. And we put Horizon at the very bottom of it.
Yeah.
What?
I am not going to argue for it to be any higher if it goes anywhere. But man, like the gaming perfection of just like years of Nintendo crafting these Mario games and then like forging this one into just a polished gem.
Here's what I'll propose.
Over what number one?
And I think this will be different if you played Resident Evil. But have Zelda, Nier, Mario, Horizon.
You want to knock Resident Evil off?
Instead of having Resident Evil on there, have Super Mario.
I don't know. Resident Evil's so good, though.
It is really good. It's one of my
It's
favorite
got
games of the year.
VR. I mean,
I that's why I said I think this would be different if Mike actually played enough
That's
Resident
probably
Evil.
true. Like I played an hour and then I helped my brother fight the father. So I did that fight.
I
Got an
played
achievement for ducking a chainsaw.
I played Resident Evil, the demo, and I played Horizon, the beginning, more than once. So, I mean, and I've seen a lot of Mario. I think that's why I feel fine with Resident Evil being where it's at. But so you're saying, let's see, let me think about this. You say Zelda, Nier, Mario, Horizon.
Yeah. And I think I'm the one that feels the most strongly about Resident Evil, but I think Mike.
No, I think it deserves.
I think Resident Evil needs to go on
Yeah.
that list.
Okay.
But I think Mike feels probably more strongly about Horizon than I
You
feel
do
about
about
Resident
Resident
Evil. So,
but I
would-
feel more about Xeno. I feel just as much about Xenoblade. as
Well,
I
then
do
make
put it
your
on-
case.
Yeah, make your case for it.
because I don't think it appeals to.
It doesn't
Well-
matter. Like Horizon, there's 3 people at this
But I
table
no,
that
to
are
me-
indifferent to it.
When I think of the Game Rushmore top 4, I think of ones that will appeal to just more than just me. I mean, because that are great games that I can see from an objective point of view. So because there is, I mean, those are great games, but I just haven't played it. I mean, Xenoblade appeals to me more in the sense that it's the type of game I want to play, and there's not much of anything like that I can think of that's so robust. I mean, the others are just so narrow. But I mean, I don't know. I haven't played Nier. That's the thing. But
I mean, Nier is hampered by a shoestring budget, which is really unfortunate. Like you go back to so we've all played the demo, the factory.
I've never played I didn't play the.
Oh, you didn't play the demo. So the demo is, it's a really cool like level where it kind of introduces you to all the gameplay styles of Nier, which it can be a side scroller, beat 'em up, it can be character action, it can be top down twin stick shooter. But they have you go back to that stupid factory like 5 times, and I know that the only reason why they're doing that is because they just didn't have the assets and the time and money to build everything that they probably had the ambition to build. And the other thing about Nier is that its open world it sucks. Like it's not fun to traverse around. It's got more invisible walls. Like you'll go up to a building and there's like a door. It's the size of 2B and you can see inside the building.
Yeah.
And you cannot. There is an invisible barrier that just you cannot go through it. You can't explore what's inside that building. And the whole world is like littered with that. And honestly, I don't even know why it's an open world game. Like even more like than Horizon. It seems like it should have just been like a more linear kind of character action, just getting you to the points.
I think that's why I forgive
Do you
it
think
more than
we should take Nier off?
Horizon.
I mean,
I think that's why I forgive Nier for being an open world more than I do Horizon, because it's just an area to go around. It's not the important part. Whereas Horizon's...
see, then I would just say it's wasting your time.
No, because you can go pick up stuff. Like, you can get things. That's the only thing I liked about Horizon, too, is I go around and I pick up things. I expanded all of my inventory because it gave me something to do, something I got to choose to do myself.
It's hard to argue with Josh because he has a unique point of view.
I don't know. I guess I could. I mean, I think between Nier and Resident Evil's better.
I mean, I feel bad about saying anything against Nier because
Nier seems very just patchy. It doesn't seem fluid, but that's just because I hear there's all these routes, and then there's, I don't consider that and then replaying things. I'm never really into replaying things.
Yeah, isn't Route B supposed to be kind of a slog too?
It's only replaying the story missions from the first playthrough.
Okay.
And it adds a new perspective, and it's the first like kind of the hint of the turn of the story where it starts to get interesting of like, oh, there's more going on here than meets the eye.
Yeah. Because
So then I would take your list, but replace Nier with Resident Evil.
I mean, I'd rather have Nier on there than Mario.
Okay. See, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That's just what it comes down to.
Because in terms of Mario, I'm not.
So, because if we look at it from a base standpoint, right, Nier and Horizon have the same concept in that it's a world populated by robots.
Mm.
More or
on
less.
the surface,
There's something has happened, and now there's a bunch of robots. Like just a base level, right? I'm more interested in finding out what happens in Nier than I am in Horizon, and I've played upwards of 10 hours of Nier, and I've played 40 hours of Horizon. And the fact that I care more about Nier's story than I do about Horizon's story, I would not.
To be fair, you're an anime otaku, so
you know what I watched? I'm gonna have an aside. John Boy's story of those satellites and Earth playing football.
Oh yeah.
I read all that.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of the best things I've ever read.
Have you read what's that name? The other story that guy did?
Oh, the Tim Tebow?
Yeah, Tim Tebow.
So to put this in the context, this is a story about satellites up in space. Pioneer 10, Pioneer 9, and an as of yet not launched Jupiter satellite that gain sentience as they're out in space 17,000 years in the future. And the world of Earth has stopped aging, no longer has disease, no longer dies. And they live forever, and they get to look like however they want. So the world has just turned to football, and not just like regular football, like football that spans and across an entire state.
Like the entire state is the playing field.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you get from you got to go from one state to another, and that's your end zone.
And that's your touchdown.
And it is, who knows how long, but conceptually there's just things that happen that are more interesting. It's an intriguing look at human beings and what they do, and how robots interact with those things and what it means to be.
The storytelling in Nier reminds me of those stories.
Exactly. It's like, this is my kind of storytelling.
I mean, I'll say this, I played it for hours and hours today and didn't want to stop when Aaron showed up to do the podcast.
Yeah.
And
you're you're so close to like getting to that point.
Here's my list. My list is Zelda, Nier, Mario, Horizon.
I like
that's
that list.
Exactly what Aaron said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so I agree with Aaron.
Yeah, Resident Evil is very good, but I think taking into consideration not just like what we think is the best games, but the games that we as a group feel passionate about, I think are important to have on here. And I think that is the perfect balance of how we feel about these games.
Okay. Zelda, Nier, Mario, Horizon. Do we have any problems with that?
Man, but when they staple your hand back on after it gets chainsawed off in Resident Evil,
What are the chances of me getting Xenoblade on there?
make a case.
0.
That's what I thought.
Well, make a case. Make a case for it. Like, what do you think?
I could gush all day about it, but it's a matter.
I don't like. It would be arguing if it's going to go over there over Horizon, and I don't think you could convince me.
Yeah.
You could convince me.
I just,
I think we know. I think Xenoblade is a known quantity in terms of gameplay and story.
Yeah, is there something in particular that it did differently than the past Xenoblade games, besides what you mentioned
Besides
earlier?
cutting features.
Combat. Well, no, it added features too.
Okay.
Yeah, it definitely.
I'm
did.
sorry. That was a snarky comment.
No. I mean, you're right. It did take away features, but it added some too. It's very story heavy. If you've ever played the original Xeno Saga, you can play Xeno Saga and then just sit there and watch a 45-minute cutscene. That's kind of can happen in this game. The thing about Xenoblade is it has adult themes, but it is such a cartoony approach to it. You feel safe letting your child play it without feeling, I mean, in the beginning, the main character gets murdered.
Whoa.
Yeah, he just straight up gets murdered.
Spoilers.
It's in the beginning. And so that's the thing with him and his blade is she shares her life force with him, so now they both share the same I guess ether, in the sense that if he gets injured, she gets injured, and vice versa. But the thing about the game is that it feels like you're playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, but it's populated and it's an RPG. Because when you play Zelda Breath of the Wild, you just feel you're at awe. And you just want to climb everything and look at everything. And it's not the best looking game, but
It's pretty good looking, though.
It is.
Every time I walk by and I see you playing it, I always do a double take. I say, oh, look at that. That's nice.
It has shadows on a different level that Xenoblade. I think Xenoblade X looks better, but it doesn't have the shadows. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has shadowing such that's why it doesn't look as crisp as that. But it's just such. It has the content of a Metal Gear game, and just the attention and the just passion and love poured into it. It has the feelings of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and it just makes you smile. It just makes you want to keep playing. Makes you love life, because you're not, it's not, the world's not ending.
I would argue Nier actually probably made me love life more than any game ever.
Wow. Why don't you marry the game? Jeez.
Yeah, Brandon, you're coming from the wrong direction on stories for me. I want games that make me feel worthless as a human being.
So I haven't played it, but my biggest criticism towards, just on a purely visual standpoint with Xenoblade, those character designs, man. I can't get over them.
The art style is definitely less than its predecessor, in my opinion.
Well, even you mean Xenoblade Chronicles, the first one, or
first one
X?
does. I don't think it ages well. The first one looks pretty bad.
But like the world is really cool. Like those what are they, like Titans that they live on the backs of and they fly and stuff. Oh man, that's such a cool idea. But man, those characters, they suffer from just over design, and that female character is just so bad. Oh my gosh. It's like,
It's like somebody made her into a body pillow.
It does have a weird little thing like that, because they had to edit X, the 14-year-old Ray. They had to straight up give her
more clothes
on her
top.
Yeah.
I mean, and let's not judge a game based on its body pillowness, because otherwise Nier would be out, because that's got a body pillow factor of 5,000 out of 10.
In Nier, if you hold down both your analog sticks, she self-destructs, but doesn't die. She just loses her skirt.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Try it next time.
No.
Well, they were talking about in the game where it's like you have a self-destruct, and I just decided, I want to see what happens. I just saved it. I'm kind of curious, and it's like she explodes, and then she had no skirt, and then 9S didn't have pants.
Yeah.
So it all balances out.
Yeah. She's wearing a bodysuit. It's not like she's just wearing underwear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take Horizon, and when you go to your next task, you have it tells you exactly where you need to go.
Yeah.
That to me.
Yeah, the open worldness of Horizon isn't the best part of Horizon. I liked it because of just how amazing the technology that went into it is.
It tells me it's like it contradicts its theme. It's almost like they put it in to appeal to those that don't want to appreciate
it was
the
also
open world, right?
No,
it's to get rid of traversal issues. I tried turning it off, and then getting to anything was then just more frustrating.
Was it?
Yeah, because you can't just climb over anything. So, like, if I try to go as the crow flies to an area, it wouldn't. I was a mountain goat as much as possible, and that there's some trophies that I was getting from Horizon where you have to like do all these tricks and stuff. Like, I didn't do the tricks to get to any of them. Instead, I came down off the mountains the wrong way, and then I ended up at the place where you got the little Banuk figurines.
Oh, see, awards innovation.
But like, I worked for that. Like, I broke that. I did not play the game I was supposed to get those that way.
Xenoblade makes you feel, if you ever go hiking and you're climbing a mountain and you see just mountains far away. This I need to go over there somewhere, and between you and there is just an entire game. But that's the beauty of it. And it's just like, all right, have fun, try to get there, and you just you find caves, you find things, and it's just.
See, I think I just connected with Horizon differently than everybody because I grew up in the areas that it represents, and I would never in a million years ever think that something would take place in Bryce Canyon or Lake Powell. Like, that to me is super cool. Like, it's relatable to me.
Josh, how do you feel?
Probably the list the way we have it,
Yeah, me too.
I guess.
Yes. One thing I want to say about Xenoblade, I have one complaint.
Yeah, what is that?
I have a couple of complaints, but this one, it does something that I don't like, but I know why it does it. So you never, when you're playing a story game and it part of the story, you end up at a place where you're stranded and you have to find your way out. That's the story.
Yeah.
You're trapped. You're trapped in this Titan. Now you have to find your way outside of this Titan. But you can actually teleport back to previous locations you've been to that are other Titans. Yeah. So you can do that, which is completely contrary to the story.
Yeah.
They do that to not close the game off to you. It's like, oh, you may want to do some side quests you didn't do.
Yeah, we don't want you to get stuck in this belly.
We don't want you to get bored. So, but like, that technically doesn't.
Yeah. You can just teleport out and never return. Be like, oh, we're good.
But the story is I'm stuck.
It's non-canon, all that other stuff.
Yeah. That's OAVs.
Let me make an argument for Star Wars Battlefront 2.
No, stop the podcast.
Zelda, Nier, Mario, Horizon. Is that our list?
How do you feel about that, Brandon?
One more time.
Zelda,
Mm-hmm.
Nier,
Mm-hmm.
Mario,
Mm-hmm.
Horizon.
I'm okay with that.
What about Mario being number 2 and Nier number 3?
No.
I'm against it.
No.
I really look forward to everyone playing Nier.
Me too.
I'm looking forward to playing it now that I know that I don't have to buy it.
I'm telling you, that John Boy story sold me on the narrative for Nier in the weirdest way. I was like, you know what? I need to finish Nier.
You should buy Nier though, because it's a small game and more games need to be supported like that.
You all should read that John Boy story. I'm telling you.
Both of them.
I'll tell you what, if I play
And his video
Aaron's
series.
copy
Pretty good.
and I like it as much as Aaron, like if I like it half as much as Aaron likes it, I will buy the special edition, the next one that comes out, and
Next
they'll make
Nier.
even double.
I'm gonna plug something else on this John Boy's guy. I watched every YouTube series called Pretty Good that he ever made, and I do not follow sports.
Mm-hmm.
And what he does with sports makes me happy. So go watch those.
I legit love the Tim Tebow story. It's one of my favorite fiction stories.
That's funny. It sounds funny. Next year, I will be fighting for the number 1. I already know what it's going to be.
Oh boy.
Ni no Kuni 2.
Ooh, hey.
And I will fight.
Everyone play
To
it
the
because they're going to have to.
Brandon,
have
you've
an
got a
opinion.
chance.
It looks really good though. That kingdom building stuff actually looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring a 12-pack of Mountain Dew. Be like, we're not leaving, guys, until you are convinced.
He brings up the dictionary to filibuster.
Let's begin in 1980 when level 5.
I don't even know. Like next year is a little bit more nebulous. Like I'm trying to remember everything. That,
Monster Hunter.
Monster
Yeah.
Hunter.
That looks
could be a
good.
that looks
contender.
good. New God of War looks really good.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man looks good. Although it hasn't demoed especially well, but I have faith because of the developer.
I have faith because of Spider-Man.
Octopath.
Octopath Traveler. Is that going to come out next year?
Is that next year?
Supposedly.
What a flop that you.
Look, you straightened
Josh
it
just
out.
exposed Tracer's buttocks.
Now I'm putting Tracer's head
Into her butt,
into her butt.
where it belongs.
He's folding it nicely.
All right, our list
Read
once
it.
again from the bottom.
Oh, from the bottom up.
Read the full title, please.
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Super.
Super Mario Odyssey. That's not why I paused. Nier Automata. And The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Good games.
Great games.
Great games.
Yes.
Buy them. Support them. Play video games. Love life.
Yeah, support that struggling company. Nintendo.
And
Yeah, buy a Switch.
Sony
Sony
and Square.
and
I
Square.
was going to say, is Nier Square?
Yeah.
Cool.
Square Enix.
Square Enox.
I hope that with the next Nier, because this one was so successful, that they get a bigger budget.
Yeah, I think it's guaranteed because this got a lot of attention.
It's amazing they made this game.
It is.
The
It
first
really
Nier,
is.
no, I mean, people liked it to an
So-
extent.
I loved Nier, the original. It's
Yeah.
janky.
Yeah.
It's janky.
I mean, if you look at Yoko Taro games, like critically, it's like all the Dragon Guards are like 3s and 4s, and then like Nier is like a 5 or 6, and then this one is like 9.2 on
Yeah.
Metacritic.
Nier is from Dragon. They did Dragon
Yes.
Guard.
It's related to that.
Oh my
It
gosh!
is
the
canonically
originals are so
connected.
It is
Really?
connected.
Yes.
Yes.
Because Dragon Guard 3 was like, that was horrible. I couldn't even play it.
It is-
It was a disgrace. But the predecessors, oh my gosh!
There you go. Nier plays
Riding
a lot
that
better
dragon.
than any of those.
But
Yeah, I'm sure it looks smooth.
What a year.
yeah,
Looking
2017.
forward to 2018 here on New Year's Eve. By the time you hear this, we'll be in 2018.
I didn't do anything I said I was going to do this year, like buy virtual reality.
You can get a PSVR.
you graduated
now,
though
yeah.
this year, right?
I did.
So
Yeah, but that wasn't one of his goals.
no,
It just happened.
it just happened.
It was below my virtual reality purchase.
Josh.
I was hyped.
GameRushmore.onsouthernroad.com for our podcast, at Game Rushmore on Twitter, on Southern Road on Facebook, GameRushmore@gmail.com for questions and comments, YouTube.com/on Southern Road to listen to this podcast online on the YouTubes. Aaron has a Laser Ramon channel that you can link to from On Southern Road.
at Laser Ramon on Twitter. Now that I'm not playing all these Game of the Year games, I might have time to stream.
We'll see.
Stay tuned.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. See you next year.